What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name's Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show, the March Madness edition. Hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. We're within just a day now of starting this year's March Madness tournament, so you guessed it. Today we're going to be doing our final bracketology of the year. Super exciting. I'm really excited for the tournament to get going. So today we're going to be making our picks on the ESPN Tournament Challenge. We're going to be doing all the picks in each region, and then we'll be picking the Final Four and the national champion at the end of the video. Just before we get into starting the picks, though, if you guys do enjoy today's video, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button for full coverage throughout the entire March Madness tournament. But anyways, let's get started with the first region, where obviously we have the #1 seed Gonzaga Bulldogs versus the play-in that we're going to be seeing later on tonight. But you look at Gonzaga, obviously undefeated, #1 in the country for a reason. You got 4 double-digit scorers led by some really high draft picks going this year. Obviously won the West Coast Conference championship as well. Beat some fairly good teams back in 2020, beat a very good BYU team most recently. Obviously, Gonzaga takes this one. Next up, we got Oklahoma versus Missouri. Now, I think this is just a fantastic matchup. Now, unfortunately, Oklahoma, Harmon, they're probably second best scorer, best overall player potentially on the court. Unfortunately, he's going to be out for the the first 2 games of this tournament, which, you know, hurts Oklahoma a little bit, who was already playing some not so great basketball down the stretch of the season. But you know what? You look at this Missouri team and you look at just one X factor who's probably the best player on the court in Jeremiah Tillman, and Missouri needs him to be good. If Tillman is good, I think they beat Oklahoma with or without Harmon. But now with Oklahoma getting that unfortunate circumstance, I'm obviously taking Missouri. Now next up, Creighton versus UC Santa Barbara. Now obviously Creighton did not perform well at all in the Big East Conference Finals against Georgetown. But Creighton still had a great week in order to get there and have had a great season all year there. They have the best player on the court in Marcus Zagorowski in this game. And out of all the 12 seeds, I'm not a huge fan of UC Santa Barbara. Now, I could see Creighton losing again in the second round for sure. I don't see them losing here, so we're going with #5, Creighton. Virginia versus Ohio. I've done a lot of coverage on this game in particular. You look at Virginia, who actually is not going again to Indy until Friday, only 1 day before their game. So, you know, we don't know how much they're practicing. We don't know who was mostly hit by the virus on their team, but you would assume they're going to be a little rusty. In Ohio, led by Jason Preston, I think is one of the most underrated guys in this entire tournament. A great scorer, does it all for Ohio. And Ohio had a great week, beating a very good Toledo team and a very good Buffalo team in order to win the MAC. So give me Ohio here with the upset. USC versus the winner of Wichita State and Drake. Another very, very good matchup. USC obviously has had a great year. They had a phenomenal year in the Pac-12. Weren't able to get it done in the conference the conference tournament. But, you know, against Wichita State and Drake, these are 2 teams who really could surprise some people. Wichita State is a team who I know is a lot of people's sleepers before last week or 2 hit. And as for Drake, the 3rd last undefeated team, had a rough stretch down the later part of the season, but still a very talented team. I like USC to surprise some people overall and be a sleeper team later on in the bracket, so I'm actually going USC here. Even though Kansas got hit by the virus as well, had to pull out of their conference tournament, they started playing some great basketball down the later stretch of the season. And I think Eastern Washington is probably the easiest 14 seed in this entire bracket. You look at like the 14 with Colgate that Arkansas had to play, and you look at how the heck did Kansas only get a team like Eastern Washington. But again, could be wrong, but here I am going with Kansas. Oregon VCU is one that I've been 50-50 with for this entire week. You look at Bones and VCU, but you also look at Oregon and how well they've played throughout this entire season in the Pac-12. And, you know, they're a lot of people's sleepers team for a reason, and potentially beating Iowa and moving on later in this tournament as well. But I'm taking VCU here with the upset just because they have my favorite player. And then 2 Iowa, 15 Grand Canyon. Luka Garza is the best scorer in Division I basketball, so we're taking Iowa. Gonzaga, Missouri. Gonzaga, again, is the best scoring team in the country. Could Jeremiah Tillman be an X factor in this game? Yes, but it's really hard to beat a Gonzaga team that has 4 X factors in the game. And you know, Gonzaga's just had a phenomenal year, and I see them making it to at least the Final Four. Creighton versus Ohio would be a really good one. I love Ohio as a sleeper team. loved them the whole year. I really like that entire MAC conference, as I know that a lot of people have. And Creighton just doesn't sit right with me because of what they did against Georgetown. So give me Ohio here. USC Kansas. This would be just a fantastic game personally for me in the second round. You look at a USC team led by the Mobleys, and I think a lot of people are underestimating them just because they didn't do well in that actual Pac-12 conference tournament week. But they had a great season, a phenomenal record over the course of the season, and obviously just a tremendous amount of talent. And I still think Kansas would be a little rusty. You know, they're not going to get back up to speed against that Eastern Washington game, in my opinion. So give me USC here. And then I just think Iowa, Luka Garza, X factor there. He takes over. Obviously, Ohio Cinderella run ends here. Give me Gonzaga. And then also, this is a tough one to pick, USC versus Iowa. I think USC has enough size to give Iowa and Luka Garza especially a lot of trouble. And even though I think that Iowa is deep, you know, deeper than just Luka Garza, I don't see it. So I'm taking USC and give me Gonzaga to the Final Four. Let's move on to Baylor's region. Baylor's had a great year. Maceo Teague, Jared Butler, Mitchell. This team is just so deep. And it's unfortunate, I think, that they ended up losing late in the season to Oklahoma State. And people forget how good Baylor can really be. But yeah, give me Baylor. North Carolina, Wisconsin, two teams who, you know, are better than I think a lot of people let on when you look at their advanced stats. You're looking at a North Carolina team, obviously led by their head coach, Roy Williams, who's been playing some fantastic basketball at the end of the season. But you look at Wisconsin, when you look at their adjusted KenPom rankings, they're a very underrated team. And I love Demetric Trice over there. Give me Wisconsin in this game. Another popular upset pick, Villanova versus Winthrop. Obviously, no Colin Gillespie for Villanova, but I will say something here. Give Jay Wright 8 days to prepare like Jay Wright just has, and he's one of the best coaches in college basketball for a reason. I'm taking Villanova here. Purdue is a team that I think has been a sleeper team all year in the Big Ten Conference. I really like the way that they play. They've been underrated just because the Big Ten is so deep, but Purdue has won some big basketball games. I'm taking Purdue. You look at Texas Tech, and they've had a decent year in a very solid Big 12 conference. But you look on the flip side, Utah State, one of the best teams in terms of defensive efficiency in the entire country. Those are the teams that tend to do really well come this March Madness tournament. Give me Utah State. Arkansas-Colgate is going to be one of the best games of this first round. You're talking about two teams who are some of the fastest and highest scoring offenses in all of college basketball. The thing that scares me, though, is Colgate has not played really any high major teams at all, or even close to the caliber of teams that they're going to be getting against Arkansas. And Colgate, yes, they've had phenomenal stats, but have only played 5 different teams all year. And I think Arkansas is an underrated defensive team just because their defensive stats look a lot worse because they play so fast, opponents get more possessions, but give me Arkansas here. Florida Virginia Tech is going to be the first game of the day on Friday, and this is an interesting one. You're talking about two teams who have not played some very good basketball down the course of the season. Virginia Tech had a bunch of their games canceled later on in the year as well, but overall, I think if Virginia Tech comes out of the gate and is not rusty, I think they've played the better basketball later part of the season, you know, in some of their bigger games. Give me Virginia Tech, and then obviously Ohio State with E.J. Liddell, Dwayne Washington Jr., the way they've played in some of the bigger games in their conference tournament. Obviously, I'm taking Ohio State. Baylor, Wisconsin. Now, I am not taking Wisconsin here with the upset, even though I think it's more possible than a lot of people would be letting on in this game. You look at the advanced stats and the way these teams match up against each other, and Wisconsin sort of has a favorable matchup. Wisconsin has not been playing great basketball at the end of the season, but they've had a lot of close games against some really good teams, including a number 2 seed like Iowa that we saw in the other region. Baylor wins this game, but I think it's closer than a lot of people think. Next up, Villanova, Purdue. Villanova does not get the job done without Colin Gillespie. I think it'll be a real stretch even for them to beat Winthrop in that first round. So give me Purdue here. Utah State would give Arkansas a ton of troubles, and what a game this would be. Utah State with their defensive presence and, again, their defensive efficiency, and then on the flip side, one of the best offenses in the country. I really like Utah State, though, and the way that they play defense. Give me that 11-3 upset. Virginia Tech, number 10. Ohio State, number 2. Virginia Tech, as I was saying, not some great basketball at the later part of the season. And even though I'm a Michigan fan, I love this Ohio State team, so give me Ohio State. Baylor, Purdue, it would be a really unfortunate season if this talent and Baylor and what they were able to do and win their first conference tournament in like 70 plus years for them not to be able to make the Elite Eight at least. So give me Baylor over Purdue. And Utah State's magical run ends here. Ohio State is just too deep. They're so good, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They can shoot the three ball. They score in chunks. This is a really good team who's played great competition very well all year long. And then finally, the team that we move on to the Final Four, I really like Ohio State here. I've watched some of the games that Baylor's played against some of the better competition that they played this year. I think Ohio State would match up very well against them, so give me Ohio State to the Final Four. We move down to the East region with the Michigan Wolverines. Now, obviously, Michigan is going to be without Isaiah Livers for at least a few games, and hopefully we get him back if we end up making the Elite Eight or the Final Four, but we get the job done against the 16 seed. LSU St. Bonaventure is one of the best games of the first round in this 8-9 matchup. LSU, obviously you saw what they did in their SEC conference tournament, and then you got St. Bonaventure, who statistically in advanced metrics, is one of the most underrated teams in college basketball, but I think LSU is the hotter team. Give me LSU. Colorado is a team that I really liked all season long, but what I saw from Georgetown against Creighton was the ability to rebound the basketball. They were really solid in the paint and gave Creighton, who's not a bad team by any means, a lot of troubles, and they forced them to have to take shots from the outside. Colorado's a team who's lost some bad games this year. I think this is going to be one of them as well. Give me Georgetown on to the next round. Florida State is a team that I've thought could be upset all year. I don't like this matchup for UNC Greensboro, though. I think Florida State, is a fairly consistent team. They played well in their conference tournament. Give me Florida State. BYU, Michigan State, UCLA. I like BYU no matter who they play in this matchup. You saw some of the games that BYU had against Gonzaga this year, and you take away their games against Gonzaga, and this is a team with a 20-3 record and a team who has played several teams that are actually in this March Madness tournament. They got 2 senior guards. They got a very good forward in Matt Harms. Give me BYU in this one. Texas and Abilene Christian. I do like this Abilene Christian team, but Texas absolutely demolished in their conference tournament, and they manhandled Oklahoma State in that conference tournament finals, and that score was a lot closer than the actual game should have been. So give me Texas here. UConn, Maryland is an interesting one. I've been 50-50 on this one all week long. UConn is a supposed sleeper in a lot of people's brackets, but I haven't liked what I've seen from them this year. And on the flip side, I think Maryland has a lot of underrated talent, and I love teams that are, decently coached and also play those tough games in the big conferences. Give me Maryland here on a small 10-7 upset. I love what Rick Pitino's done over at Iowa, but Alabama has been fantastic all season. They're a great team on both sides of the basketball. I think Alabama could make a deep push into this tournament, so obviously give me Alabama. Michigan LSU, as much as I like the Michigan Wolverines, this is a really tough one to pick the Wolverines in. With no Isaiah Livers here, you'd assume Michigan is going to be all out of sync. And LSU is a high-powered offense, and when they're hot, they shoot the 3-ball very well. And I don't know if Michigan would end up keeping up with them. I pick Michigan out here or probably in the next round. I definitely don't see them getting out of this region, but for now, I think I'm going to take LSU actually to beat Michigan. Georgetown versus Florida State is a tough one. I've been battling with this one sort of all week as well, but it's March. Give me Georgetown. I think they figured it out at the later part of the year. They lost a lot of guys coming into this year, but I love Georgetown and what Patrick Ewing's been able to do over there, and I love Javon Blair, who leads that team. BYU Texas would be an interesting one, an unfortunate one for BYU. The way Texas matches up with teams, given the way that their height is distributed over the roster, I love this Texas team. And then Alabama, Maryland, again, they're a great team on both sides of the basketball. Alabama is, so give me Alabama here. LSU, unfortunately, ends Georgetown's run. Love Cam Thomas, the best scorer in the SEC. And I think a team that can shoot on the outside like LSU can is going to be the end of Georgetown, and that's why I really like LSU in this matchup. And then give me Texas. The way that Texas matches up is too much for any team, in my opinion, at least until we get to a team later on in the Final Four. And I think Texas gets the job done and actually ends up moving to the Final Four. Last bracket. Obviously, give me Illinois over Drexel. Love Kofi Coburn. Love Dosunmu as well. They got 2 superstars on that team. They rebound the basketball very well, and obviously very good in the paint. Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech. Pretty sure Georgia Tech had a guy who's going to be out of this game. due to the virus as well. Loyola Chicago is one of the best teams in terms of defensive efficiency. That's what I love picking in this tournament. Give me Loyola Chicago. Tennessee versus Oregon State. I think it's the weakest 5 seed. I think it's the weakest 12 seed. That being said, Oregon State had a great run in order to steal a bid to get into this tournament, but give me Tennessee just because they have 2 top 10 picks. Oklahoma State, led by Cade Cunningham, obviously had a great run in their conference tournament as well against Liberty, popular 4-13 sleeper as well. But I like Oklahoma State to get the job done against Liberty. San Diego State versus Syracuse. San Diego State's a very well-coached team and obviously lost Malachi Flynn, but very close, in terms of talent as they were last year. Now, they would have been a number 1 seed last year, still got experience coming into this year. But you look at Syracuse and the 2 Boeheims with obviously Buddy Boeheim and Coach Boeheim as well. This is a team made for March Madness. I love the way Boeheim shoots the basketball. Give me Syracuse here. West Virginia versus Morehead State. I know a lot of people like this upset as well because people think that West Virginia is sort of an overrated 3 seed. I don't think so. I think West Virginia has a lot of experience, especially at their guard position. That's why I'm taking West Virginia here. Clemson, Rutgers. I do not like Clemson. I like that Rutgers is in the Big Ten. I'm taking Rutgers. And Houston has had just a phenomenal year, including a big win in their conference tournament against a very good Cincinnati team. Give me Houston. Illinois takes down Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago. They're just too good. Illinois, the way that they can get you on the outside in the perimeter, but also inside with Kofi Cockburn as well, is too much, even for that great defense that Loyola Chicago has. Again, I said Tennessee, most overrated 5 seed in my opinion, so of course I'm taking Oklahoma State here. Even though I'm a big fan of West Virginia, I like Syracuse. They're my sleeper team this year. Obviously, when you have a mix of a big coach and just the way that Buddy Boeheim scores the basketball, I think it's a recipe for success. And then give me Houston against Rutgers as well. Illinois, in my opinion, is probably the favorite right now to win the entire tournament, so give me Illinois here. And Syracuse, Houston, I've been sort of tossing this one up. Houston has had a great run all year. Give me Syracuse. They're going to be the hot team if they do come off this win against West Virginia. So give me Syracuse here. And unfortunately, I just think Illinois is too good. So give me Illinois to the Final Four. Texas versus Gonzaga. People are going to hate me for this one, but BYU destroyed Gonzaga in the first half of the West Coast Conference game with their height. Texas has even more height. They're a great rebounding team, great inside. If any team in this bracket beats Gonzaga, it's going to be Texas. Give me Texas to the national championship game. And as I was saying before, I think Illinois is the national championship favorite. Illinois and Ohio State played a great game in the Big Ten Conference Tournament Finals, but that was a game that Illinois was leading by a ton until Ohio State started coming back. They match up very well against Ohio State, so give me Illinois, and then give me Illinois as well inside. Because they have Kofi Cockburn, but also the play on the guard side, I think they're too much for Texas, and I do think they can beat that height. So that's what I'm submitting with Illinois as the national champion. But anyways, guys, that's all for today. Let me know your thoughts on my bracket down in the comment section below. Obviously, it's March Madness, so I had to pick a few upsets, had to pick some favorites as well. But let me know how you guys think I did on my bracket down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for full coverage throughout the entire March Madness tournament. You aren't going to want to miss it. Anyways, guys, again, if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.